Spoiler warning. The following discussion will contain spoilers. We recommend checking out the movie first, then coming back to hang with us. But if you don't care about that, glad to have you here. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Real Review. My name is Kevin.
And I'm John.
And we are The Real Movie Guys, and welcome back to another episode of Real Sports Month, where we take a look at some of your favorite sports movies you may or may not have seen, but you definitely should know about. Today, we're going to be talking about Miracle. Miracle is the true story of Herb Brooks, the player turned coach who led the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team to victory over the seemingly invincible Soviet squad.
These are my heroes, son. Real heroes. Ronald Reagan and the 1980 Miracle on Ice U.S. hockey team. 1980 was the best year of my life. Ronald Reagan became president, and the U.S. hockey team overcame enormous odds to beat the Russians and win Olympic gold.
So this is probably, I would say this is probably one of the most famous sports stories in history. At least as far as U.S. history is concerned, I would think this is up there.
Yeah, I'd go with that. Yes.
I would say, especially in hockey. I mean, as far as hockey is concerned.
Definitely
absolutely.
with hockey.
So, from that standpoint, this movie is an excellent piece if you want to know more about that event. As far as, giving historical context and whatnot, this movie did an excellent job. Now, John, why don't you explain to the people at home a little bit about Miracle? Like, a little bit about the story. Just give us a little bit of something.
I mean, the story is that these bunch of unknown talent and not great players who weren't expected to win really anything, weren't even expected to do a decent job. We're going up against this powerhouse who's been winning so many years in a row.
I think it was
so many
10
championships.
Years? Does that sound
like
about
10
right?
years?
It was like 10 years undefeated in Soviet Russia.
Yeah, and the thing was too, not only was this team so amazing, so great, that they went in and beat the NHL players, all-star team, beat them 10-0. So this team is a bunch of college players. So you would think there's a big jump from college to the NHL. So these Russians beat the NHL all-star team. So these players, and they also had a goaltender who I think, if I can remember correctly, allowed one goal in the past 7 to 10 years or something like that.
That's crazy.
Which was crazy.
That is crazy. That is. So the whole backbone, this is very much a let's go America kind of movie. It definitely is. And that's not to say it's bad. I think that's good. We need movies like that, especially, to show pride in our country, especially in a time where we're so divided. Even now, I would say. I think this is really good even to watch now. It's currently August 2020. I think this is a great movie to rally the citizens with. It's fun to say. It's one of the few times I think you see America come together and just really, even though we're fighting, it's just hockey at the end of the day, right? It really is just a hockey game.
Listen, Herb, the bottom line is that your young guys just kicked the crap out of Czechoslovakia. And this is something that this country is ready for. You want to see reporters? Win a couple of more games.
They are just kids, Walter, so let's not turn this into something new, okay?
I'm not sure we got any control over it.
But because of all the outside interference, at this point you had the Cold War, towards the Cold War shenanigans going on with the Soviets. American pride was huge. I mean, you couldn't, if you said a bad thing about America, you'd probably be dead in a ditch somewhere. I mean, that's how much people were really fighting for their country. We don't really see that, unfortunately, as much now. But then, that was something else, I think, just to have pride in your country.
Oh, yeah. They had a lot of pride back then in the country.
Yeah, and you see it. I think I want to start with the positives of this movie. That's one of the best positives I can say. Just to see people, the crowds reacting, just the amount of pride everyone has in their players. Again, it's just a game, but to these people, defeating the Soviets, this form of oppression, and who are a looming nuclear potential crisis over us, and just the conflict that was budding. Throughout the movie, they show snippets of everything that's going on in the world, and just to see these people come together, it was more than a game.
Yeah.
It
Well, that's what.
was. It's not just a game. It's more than a game.
Well, yeah, and I think that they also not only did the players feel like it was more than a game, but they showed so much how it was so important
Mm-hmm.
for the coach to win this,
Right.
not just for the fact of winning,
Right.
but for the country, for his players. He wanted it so badly
Mm-hmm.
that he was willing to almost risk like his relationship in a way to get where what he needed to get done.
Right. And that hurt the great Herb Brooks, that's the name of the coach for the team, is portrayed by the one and only Kurt Russell. And Kurt Russell, as far as acting, nails it in this movie. Every inflection, every, speech he doesn't want to give, but he gives at the same time to rally everybody. This character is just incredibly immersive as from a sports standpoint. Very multi-dimensional even, which I think is even more interesting. He doesn't You see a lot of cliches, and this movie has that, but I think Kurt Russell is able to elevate it beyond the cliches to a point where I really sympathize with his character, like what he's going through.
Well, also I thought it was interesting. I think it was in ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
They had the playing of this movie on TV,
Right.
but they also had it playing where they also were talking to some of the players that were on the team,
Mm-hmm.
and they would discuss like certain things that was different in the movie
Right.
than that was different in their lives.
Right.
With each person, like I thought it was very interesting that all these players were talking about this movie and they were all agreeing like how great, like how decent the good the movie was and how it portrayed everything pretty much in a good way and like almost to like the T. They had some things that weren't,
Right.
and I thought it was very interesting to like just to see their view of the
Right.
movie of them
Right.
in a
Right.
movie, you know?
And Kurt Russell plays that. He plays this no nonsense coach who wants to get the best out of you. He knows what's at stake. He knows what he has to do. He's willing to forego everything else in his life to an extent. He does realize he's making mistakes along the way, but he's doing his the best he can.
Yeah.
There's a couple powerful scenes with him. One that really stands out to me is the end scene of this movie after they beat. They don't win the Olympic Games. They do later on, but the main focus isn't the winning of the Olympic Games. It's just beating the Russians, being Soviet Russia. When they win, you see him just kind of he goes yeah, like he puts his fist up, and he just walks to the back, right?
To the hallway.
He walks into the hallway, and you just see him celebrating to himself, like, I did it. We freaking did it. Like, he's not the kind of man that's going to go out there and overexpose and celebrate himself to the world. Like, he did it for him. Like, he did, he showed his positivity outside, but he took that celebration and celebrated such a personal victory to him. And I thought that was a really powerful scene. It really was.
Yeah, definitely. He
Good
celebrated
for Kurt Russell, man.
he celebrated a personal victory for himself, like just alone with himself, just trying to like take in the whole moment too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and Kurt Russell, like I said, he has some great interactions with a lot of the characters. He interacts with the assistant coach Craig, who's played by Noah Emmerich. Noah Emmerich, very famous as well in a lot of movies. Their interactions are great. They have a great chemistry together where Noah wants to question his methods, and at times he almost does, but for some reason he's still trusting of him.
I just don't think you can push them this hard, Herb, not for 6 months. It's too long.
They're doing all right.
Well, they're tired. Whole team's tired.
I know how hard to push them, Craig.
And he lets him do his thing, and I think that relationship's really interesting and well developed throughout the movie. Also, Kurt Russell with Patricia Clarkson, who plays his wife, Patty. They had some great scenes together. We talked previously when we talked about Goon, the romance subplot didn't really do anything for me. This is a good example of where it did. You got to see his home life. You got to see him struggling with that. The scene where he explains, like she's mad at him in a scene where they didn't talk about him accepting this and going on this journey, but then he gets mad and whatever, he doesn't talk to her, and then he comes back and he just explains to her everything, why he made this decision. This is what he needs to do.
Ever since I stopped playing, I wanted to coach this team. And this is the only way I know how to do it. It's not the easiest way, I know, for you or the kids, but Patty, I have to do this.
That was such a powerful scene from the two of them, her reaction to it and just him in general. His performance was stellar.
I'm sorry we didn't talk. And I was wrong not to ask. So I'm asking now if you can be with me on this, because it won't mean anything if you're not.
Yeah. Well, I also think another huge, like with Kurt Russell
Yeah.
and his interactions with people, is when he interacts with the goalie.
Right. That's
where
my
he
next
tells,
point. Right.
Oh, okay.
No, that's
'Cause
good. Go ahead. That's exactly where I was leading to. Right.
Like where he tells them, where he goes, I want the goalie that didn't take that test.
What? So that's what this is about? Because I didn't take your test? Fine, you want me to take your test? I'll take your test. Is that what you want?
No. I want to see that kid in the net who wouldn't take the test.
Yeah.
And the guy's like kind of thinking about it like, wait, why would he want that guy?
Right.
And he's like, and he tells him like, that's what you stood up for. Like that's the reason that you're on the team, is because you were able to be yourself and stand up to like something that you thought wasn't right, or in a way.
Right. And
I just thought that was so impactful on like the movie too.
And it's crazy because that ultimately Kurt Russell portrays this character as someone who's always playing 3-dimensional chess. Right. He's a strategist. He's got something on the board. He's always ready for that next move. From the beginning of the movie where he's talking about recruiting players, Craig, the assistant coach, asks him like, you picked the team already, these aren't even the best players. They're not even, he's like, no, these are the right players. These are the people I need to work with.
You're missing some of the best players.
I'm not looking for the best players, Craig. I'm looking for the right ones.
You have that scene, and then like you said, when he goes to talk to the goalie, right? When he talks to Jim in the movie, Jim Craig, he talks to him, and he knows like he's asking. I think Craig also asked him about him. He's like, oh, or not Craig. Yeah, Craig. That's funny. Actually, the assistant coach is Craig. And funny. Anyway, back on track. When the assistant coach asks him about why'd you pick Jim.
People I speak to say Craig's game has been off since his mom died.
They ever see him when his game's on?
And he knows there's that potential there. He knows that maybe he's not the best right now, but he can get him there. He sees things in people. He knows what he can work with, and he knows how to push people. And you just see that again. I just love that 3-dimensional chess he's playing with everybody, from messing with their psyches to getting this team where they need to be. He knew what he had to do. You may not agree with him. You may not necessarily like him at times, but damn it, you for sure as hell find a respect for this man throughout this movie.
Yeah, but I think it's also interesting, like you were saying, when he's talking to the players and stuff, like he just interacts with them so well. And like even with when he's talking to Jim Craig and he's telling him like how he feels and stuff, like he's talking to him and telling him like, I know that you can do better.
I got 26 guys trying to make this team, Jim. Only 20 are going to go to Lake Placid, so I got to know how committed you are to being here. Because if you're not, you're just wasting our time.
It's funny because you never see Kurt Russell plays it very reserved. This character is very reserved throughout the movie. His emotions never really come out. Even there's a Christmas time scene where they're celebrating and he's with the team and they're having a good time. They buy him a whip because he's the Ayatollah. They joke. They give him like a nameplate and everything like that. And he's like, all right, well, thanks guys. It was a good time. I'll see you. I gotta leave.
Yeah, he says I'm not very good with speeches.
Well, this may come as a shock to some of you guys, but I'm not really very good at giving sentimental speeches. No.
I don't think I should start tonight, so.
Ironic part, which I'm getting to, he says he hates speeches. How many speeches did he give in this movie? I feel like every scene is a speech. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. I have some thoughts on that as well. But
the other interesting thing too is like the real head coach of this team never got to actually watch this movie.
Yeah, he died. Right?
And the funny thing is, like, he died like a day before it got released or whatever.
Right.
But they said, like, the one good quote that I saw, it said like he never saw this movie, but he lived it.
Yeah.
So it's like an honor to the coach too.
Yeah,
In a
I
way,
feel
like
that's
they never made him seem out to be like a bad guy.
no, and
It was always in good intentions.
that's the most positive thing I think you could give this movie is I think it seeks out to portray the truth of what happened, whether it's a little glamorized or not. Is what it is. It's a movie, you know, but still, I think in essence, I think this movie portrays the events as well as it could. Other positives, right? The portrayal of hockey in general for this movie is excellent. The cinematography is beautiful for this movie. From the low shots you have to the ground when they're skating on the ice to, you know, the reflections in the panels going across everything. The shots are excellent. You see everything you need to see as far as hockey action. You see all the interactions. I never felt lost in any of the action because, you know, when you watch a hockey game on TV, it can kind of be, you know, or not even on TV, more so maybe live. It can be kind of disjointed at times, like you can't follow the action as well. Here, it just shot beautifully. I have to give it props for that. I think this movie's shot excellently.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And not even that, off the ice as well. I mean, I think it has it was like, I want to say, it's not shaky cam, but it has a little bit of an unsteady cam to it when they're filming, to where adds a little more realism to the movie, to where I felt everything was happening in real time when I'm watching it. So I really like that. I really like that style. Everything is shot just beautifully. I mean, if you want to see a good sports movie as far as execution with cinematography, this is the movie to watch.
Yeah. Well, I also think that there's also that one really great part where they play the game and he hears a bunch of his players talking about like some girls in the third row,
yes,
and how cute they are.
Oh wow, dynamite! Look over here, Phil. Section 2 of 4 rows up. 2 girls, blonde.
Man, they're gorgeous.
And so he's starting to go, like he's thinking to himself, like, I've been working you guys this whole time, and now we're in a game, and you're just not. That's what you're thinking about. So he has them stay after the game and pushes them to a breaking point to kind of like prove a point of saying like, you guys are in this together.
Think you can win on talent alone? Gentlemen, you don't have enough talent to win on talent alone. Again.
Right.
And I don't want to hear you guys keep saying, he always asks them like, okay, what's your name and where do you play for? And they would always say like Boston or Minnesota or something like that. He keeps pushing these players, and then eventually the one guy stands up, says his name, and he says, I play for the United States of America.
Who do you play for?
I play for the United States of America.
That's all, gentlemen.
Kind of to like show them like, hey, we're a team here. We need to play together and be a family. Like that one time, like they also have that one thing where they're all together and they're going to add on that new kid.
Yeah.
And then they say, hey, coach, we want to talk. They want to talk to the coach off the bus.
Right.
And he goes, well, this guy's going to help us win. This guy's amazing. This guy's better than like all of you. And if you think you're not going to make the team, then maybe you won't make this team.
Right.
And they go, yeah, but coach, it's not about that. It's about us being family.
So somebody here better explain to me why I shouldn't be giving him a hell of a look.
Because we're a family.
What?
We're a family.
A family.
Yeah.
Yeah?
So I thought that was a good part too.
No, it's good. The one kid, I think he plays Jack O'Callahan. He had the longer hair. I couldn't tell if he couldn't act or if his accent, I couldn't tell what it was. I did have some issues with some of his dialogue when he was talking, because I'm like, I don't know what it is about you. I can't tell if you just can't act or if you have like a weird Boston accent you're trying to. It's something was off with his performance.
Well, I wanted to win a national championship. That pansy over there cheap shots me. I get tossed out of the game. He steals the ring right off my finger. How'd you feel?
I agree with you though. Those are great scenes. This movie in general just really, like I said, it bleeds America. This movie. It's like, what team you play for? USA. It's like, oh yeah, all right, we got this going. Another thing I really like about this movie, which you don't see too often, is the use and non-use of a score. So this movie has a beautiful score accompaniment, right? They have, they hit the beats that they need to. When the team's down, you got that drumming score to rise them back up. The quieter moments, you have something, playing in the background. What you don't hear in some of the bigger action pieces is you don't hear anything. There's no score whatsoever. You just hear the hockey action, especially the end game. A lot of the times there's no score to anything that's happening. You just hear the clicking of the sticks on the ice, the hitting of the puck, the players grunt. Like, you just hear that sound, that hockey sound, and I really like that. That adds more to it. And it's funny because you would think, oh, well, what the hell? They just didn't want to use the soundtrack. No, the lack of sound adds so much more to the immersion that this film is going for.
Well, that's the other thing too. Like with some movies, sometimes they don't need music in it in like certain parts. Like if you just have that intensity, people can feel that. People can understand that. They don't always need something playing in the background.
Because remember, music is a tool.
Through the emotions.
Music is a tool in your toolbox as a filmmaker. You use that to elevate, de-escalate, get an emotion across, whatever you need to do that either you feel like you can't do on film or you think will enhance the experience. This movie knew what it was doing. When it was showing that action, it relied just on the cinematography and the way it was beautifully shot, and just using those organic sounds of the game, you got it across with the fans. The fans going crazy. Like, you didn't need that extra fine-tuning with the score.
Definitely. I agree.
So, let's get into a couple negatives. There are some negatives. As much as I do praise this movie, there are some things that I think could have been done better. I thought it's funny because I feel like I'm noticing a trend the more sports movies we're watching. Not all of them, but there is a trend that we don't get as much team development as I really am looking for in these movies. This movie, it's really just, the head coach and the goalie, right? They're really the only characters with development. Much. Honestly, and as me as not being a big sports or history buff, I didn't really know anybody else. Like, I didn't care about them. I didn't really, like, when they were getting ejected from the team, when they were cutting the list down, they had 26 and he had to get it down to 20. I didn't care about who was getting cut. I didn't care because I didn't know who they were. Why do I care about them? What's their story? I mean, you could argue this is a true story. Maybe there wasn't much to tell, but remember, this is a movie, guys, right? We can embellish a little bit. We can have some backstory, throw something in there for me. Give me more of that team. There wasn't enough team bonding experiences for me. I wanted to have more of a relationship with these players. And again, I only cared about Jim Craig. It was the only character I cared about because he's the only one that had a backstory. Literally no one else had a backstory in this movie.
And you know what I find actually like interesting about like your take on like those certain things, like the movies needing like you to understand the team more as like more of like characters. I think that also goes into the fact that when the way you look at the movies, or you're not looking at it as like a sports movie per se. You're looking at it more as like a movie about sports, but like you're not like you don't like sports per se. So you're going into it with a whole different looking into it.
I can understand that aspect. I can understand that. My issue is I'm supposed to care about this team, right? I'm supposed to care about this team. I'm supposed to be invested in what they're doing. And I am. It's mostly just because of the head coach and the goalie. My issue is, why do I give a shit about the rest of the other teams' issue? Like, I don't know anything about them. And they're like, oh, we're a family. Okay, you're right. You're a family. What you haven't proved shit to me, to be honest, throughout this movie. Like, I want that feeling, but just saying it, you can't just say it. You have to show me it. Show me those bonding experiences. Just a couple scenes. For example, they have the three players, the three guys. See, I don't even know their names, right? The three, they were, well, I don't even know what positions they played. Forward.
You don't really know the positions anyway.
Is that a thing? You know what I mean.
That is...
But that's my point too, though. I don't know why should I care about them when they're having the meeting, like when they're having that meeting with the coach, right? When they're having this big meeting, like, we don't want this other player here. You know, we're a family and stuff, and trying to get all that over. That's great and all, but I'm not getting that camaraderie between you. You're not showing me that camaraderie. You're telling me about that camaraderie. I want you to show me it. Like, add a couple more scenes. The movie's long, right? This movie's pretty long. It was longer than I thought it was going to be, actually. I forgot the length, which is fine. That's not a negative. I don't want that to be taken as a negative. I think the length was good. But at this point, just throw me a couple more bones. Throw me some more bonding scenes. Show me some interactions between them on the ice or when they're training. Just give me something to give me a little more. That's all I would ask from this movie.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's too unfair. I don't think that's an unfair,
I respect that, actually.
I mean, my counter to my own argument, right, would be that this movie's not even about the team, right? It's about Kurt Russell's playing Herb Brooks. This movie's about Herb Brooks.
Or is it really just about America?
Yeah, that too. But really, in essence, it's Herb Brooks' story about coaching this team. So you can make that argument that he's the focus. That's where the most time should be. And I do agree with that to an extent. But by giving me just one, you're giving me one character anyway. What's a couple more characters to show that interaction with? Wouldn't have been a negative in my point. I think that could only help the movie. Next point I want to bring up is it's funny because I'm probably gonna get roasted for this. There's a little too many speeches in this movie. I brought it up earlier. Like, Kurt Russell, don't get me wrong, I love all his speeches in this movie. I just feel like at times there was a point, like briefly in the middle of this movie, where every other scene was a speech.
You guys are playing like this is some throwaway game up in Rochester. Who we playing, Rammer?
Sweden.
Yeah, you're damn right, Sweden! In the Olympics!
There's another inspirational speech, like, you got this, you can do this. We got this team. You gotta work together. I felt like it was almost like a montage of speeches at one point.
Bruise on the leg is a hell of a long way from the heart, you candy ass.
What'd you call me?
You heard me.
You want me to play, huh? Is that what you want?
I want you to be a hockey player!
I am a hockey player! You want me to play on one leg? Huh? I'll play on one leg!
That'll get him going.
Get off me!
Oh, yeah.
Will that make you happy?
And again, that's part of the sports movie formula, but a little excessive at times. Like I said, maybe cut out a couple speeches and give me more interactions with players. That might have balanced it out a little bit instead of just hearing all these speeches. I mean, you could take any of these speeches and probably recite it to a team and it'll get people's blood going for the best.
Get you pumped up.
Yeah, but at the same time, a little less might have been more. I think there was a little too many at times. Also, this movie's a little by the books, which I said earlier when we talked about Mighty Ducks. It's very predictable, everything that's going to happen with this movie. And this is another tough one where it's a negative, but at the same time, it's hard because this is something that happened in real life. This is a historical event.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
You know what's going to happen. So in order to make it interesting, the lead up has to be interesting enough to where I doubt the future. And I would say the movie doesn't really do that for me. There's never a point where I'm like, oh man, I hope they're going to win, even though I know they're going to win. And again, that's very hard to do. That is a very hard thing.
Like, I can understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah.
But my only like against that saying is it's a movie based on a true story of something you already know that happened in history. You can't just be like, that would be like almost saying like you saying something happens in history and you make a movie about that happening, but you go, hold on, let me make you think. Like, you want someone to make you think that didn't actually happen in the movie.
To me, that's the filmmaker's goal. The filmmaker's goal is to make a movie that's gonna make me question the end. Because realistically, when you go into a movie, not even 9 times out of 10, I'd say 7 out of 10 times maybe, you know what's gonna happen at the end of the movie. But with a true story, that's even harder because the ending's public knowledge, right? You already know what's going to happen. But the filmmaker has to put that little bit of doubt in me. That little bit of doubt, like, oh, shit, like I'm really worried about these people. What's gonna happen? Like I almost got there. It was almost there, but at the same time, I feel like I just couldn't get over that hurdle. Which, like I said, that's subjective. I think that was just my opinion. That's how I feel about that. Another thing I would say is some of the political points and the stock footage don't really do it for me either. The way they're telling the story is very interesting with the whole Cold War aspect and the Soviet Russia, and that's one of the main focal points of the movie. The execution left a little bit to be desired. Like there's a scene after the Christmas scene we had talked about earlier where he's sitting in his car and he's hearing like a radio broadcast.
What by many is the most important speech of President Carter's term. A look back now as 830 WCCO's year-end special continues.
The erosion of our confidence in the future is threatening to destroy the social and the political fabric of America.
He's like, oh, you hear it over the radio that the tensions are rising between America and Russia. And there's like a scene where he's talking to his wife and it comes on the TV and she's like, oh my God, look what's going on. And it's like stock footage of, a previous newscast. I don't know. I'm never really a huge fan of stock footage in real movies. I think just reshoot it. Why not? Make it more, I know you're trying to make it accurate. It just looks kind of hokey to me when you're shoehorning all these things in it.
Yeah. And I see like where you're coming from with that.
Again,
too.
you need it, but
that's why I said like I think it brings more tension though to it. It's not just a hockey game anymore. It's more like a country versus country. You know what I'm saying?
And that's fine. But the problem is it's so hokily done. It's just like, oh, all right, I got the stock footage I'm gonna throw in the movie. Like the beginning credits of this movie is just a montage of America in the beginning, and it's kind of hokey for me. I don't know. There's better ways to go about it, and that just wasn't it for me.
Kev doesn't like America now.
I love America.
Trending.
Well, we're at that point at the end of the video now, I think, at this point, where we're going to give our final scores. I'm going to give Miracle a B+.
The Soviet Union routing Team USA 10-3.
Excellent movie. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. If you love hockey action, great cinematography, check this out. You love America, check out this movie. Kurt Russell steals the show alone. I even recommend this for teachers, if there's any teachers watching this. This is a great piece to show in class, to give kids maybe a better understanding, because I think it's hard for kids now, even us. I mean, you can even argue us to understand and see that how the world joined together against such an event. It's silly. Again, it was just sports, but it wasn't. We keep saying it. It wasn't just sports. It was about the world at that point, and you don't see anything like that now. And again, I think that's an experience that everyone should watch. This is a great family movie. There's nothing bad in it, I would say. Nothing that would, you would think maybe now if this was made, because I think this is a PG movie. I want to say it's probably like PG.
I think so.
Now it'll probably be like more of like a PG-13, have like something hard or weird in it. No, this is a good family movie. Definitely recommend. I think everybody should check it out. John, where are you at with this?
I give this movie an A.
Okay.
A solid A.
All right.
I thought all around it was just a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
Had great story to it. I also feel like just the whole movie, after watching the movie several times that I've watched it, and even just watching it again, I still feel the same connection to the movie as I did before.
That's great.
It's just a solid movie.
No, and that's great to hear. I really do. I'm glad you still enjoy it as much this time. I still do too. Definitely a great movie. Maybe not an A in my category, but it's up there. I'd say this is definitely one of the best hockey movies I think you can watch. John.
So now the end of our video.
Yeah.
So you can find us at YouTube at TheReelMovieGuys.
Mm-hmm.
You can like our channel, subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, leave comments. We always like to talk to you guys, see what your opinions are on such movies. You could also find us at TheReelMovieGuy on Twitter. We do throw out Twitter. So we'll probably start eventually we'll start doing some polls or stuff, like of what movies like in our month that you really want to see, so then we can put them out like first or something like that.
Yeah.
We're also located on many podcasting platforms such as...
Yes, for your listening pleasure, we are also available in podcast form at iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Breaker, Radio Public, and Pocket Cast. Be sure to give us a listen at any of those fine places. If you already are right now, hey, greatly appreciate it. Just search Real Movie Guys. We should pop right up. Thank you all so much for joining us for this episode of The Real Review. My name's Kevin. This guy over here, he's John. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Thanks for joining us for Real Sports Month. Like the game, love the movies. We'll catch you next time.
See ya!